You know what's weird? Sleep. Sleep is weird. The fact that we go to sleep is weird. The fact that we do sleep is weird. And even weirder is the fact that we expect kids to go to sleep. That we expect kids not only to go to sleep each night, but to be good at going to sleep. To just sort of naturally go to sleep. And we get weird and mad when little kids, babies, aren't good at sleeping. But sleep is really complicated and complex and bizarre, and we don't really understand it yet. We're just now, as far as the course of human history goes, just now starting to dip our toes into understanding not only why we go to sleep, but how we go to sleep, and more importantly, how we don't go to sleep. But we're just now learning how important sleep is to our entire body's health. I mean, bit by bit, piece by piece, the various components of our body all depend on sleep in order to not only function properly, but to survive. The brain itself might be being flushed of toxins during our sleep, and we're just now figuring this out. Sleep is weird, and it's no wonder so many kids' books have been written about it. Welcome back to Deep in Bear Country, a Berenstain Bearcast. I am your host, Phil Gonzalez, and this week we are talking about sleep. And this is something that the Berenstains have written about quite a few times over the years. They've had the bears go to bed. They've had the bears had bad dreams. They've had the bears had exciting dreams. They've had the bears get scared in the middle of the night and go crawl into bed with their parents. Sleep, sleep, sleep. It's all tied in with health and the dark and dreams. And it's no wonder we've gotten another book about it. The Berenstain Bears Sleepy Time book. That's right. It's our next Worthy Kids Hatchet book group hardback board book by Mike Berenstain. And again, this one's from 2015. It's a delightful little picture book about sleep. But what is sleep? And why do we have so many books about sleep? And why is it so complicated for kids to just shut their eyes, shut their mouths, am I right? Turn off their brains and go to sleep. Sleep is bizarre and weird, and it is no wonder so many of us have problems with it. Sleep is a delicate dance. It's this balance that our body has to enter into. It's a bizarre state of consciousness that we don't like to think too much about, because the more we think about it, the harder it is to do. And if we don't do it, guess what? We die. So what is sleep? Sleep is a dance. It's a dance between several parts of our brain. And by several, I mean a lot. It is an interplay between the brain's hypothalamus, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brainstem, the thalamus, the cerebral cortex, the pineal gland, the basal forebrain, the midbrain, and the amygdala. That's right, all those parts of the brain working in concert to get you to go to sleep. And if any one of those parts isn't doing its job properly, sleep is completely screwed up. It's disrupted. You either can't fall asleep, you can't stay asleep, you can't wake up properly, you wake up at the wrong time, or your sleep is disrupted, or your sleep is just bad. It's not restful, or your REM sleep doesn't happen at the right time. The sleep-wake cycle is disrupted. Your circadian rhythms are wrong. You're not pumping out enough melatonin. You're pumping out too much melatonin. It's nuts, and it's nuts, and it's nuts. It's no wonder that every animal in the animal kingdom has issues about sleep, that sleep cannot happen unless an animal feels perfectly safe, that sleep doesn't happen unless an animal is surrounded by the right things, in the right environment. And so then we have kids, and we just expect them to be good at it. Go, be good at this thing, we tell them. And sleep isn't easy. You just heard me list off all the parts of the brain that have to be working in concert in order to have sleep. But sleep isn't just a one thing. It is three major stages of consciousness. Stage one is the transition from wakefulness to sleep, and it takes a while in some people, takes a little bit in other people, but it's your brain pumping out certain number of chemicals to get your brain waves to slow down in order for you to enter stage two, which is another another part of sleep, which is this like light sleep before you go into deeper sleep, and that's where like your heartbeat and your breathing slow down and your muscles start relax, but your brain is now waking up in other ways, like other parts of your brain that aren't normally firing the way in this stage, they'll start firing in a different way, and then you enter into stage 3, which is a period of deep sleep. And this is the part of sleep that you have to have if you want to feel like you actually went to sleep at night. And you're going to be in stage 3 for a longer period in the beginning of your sleep cycle than in the end. Now your muscles are just totally relaxed. Your heartbeat and your breathing are super slow. And this is the part of sleep where it's really hard to wake somebody up. And because your brain waves are now just like totally just like at a low hum. But then you shift gears and you're now in REM sleep. And this is the one where your eyes are moving like crazy. Your brain is now like super active, and it looks like, if you're like just looking at brain waves, it might look like you're actually awake. This is where you're dreaming, right? And you start you may have a bad dream. You start breathing faster. Your heart rate goes up. Your blood pressure goes up. You're in this weird stage, REM, where you are now in your second waking period of the day. This is like you're living another life during REM sleep. And as you get older, REM sleep gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Oh, this is also when you might have night terrors, by the way. This is when you might wake up, you might think you're waking up and seeing a goblin sitting on your chest, or a shadow man lurking in the corner of the room. And you might just start screaming if that happens. Those are the stages of sleep. And we don't really understand all of them. And then you cycle through these, right? Like you go through these, and then you kind of start all over again. You go through all these sleep cycles throughout the night. Don't even get me started on circadian rhythms. That has to do with like light and dark and the day cycle. And people who don't have vision also have circadian rhythms, because your ability to see and your ability to gauge light and dark are like different things. Like they both have to do with the eyes, but just because you can't see doesn't mean you don't have circadian rhythms. But some people can see, and their circadian rhythms are all screwed up for some reason, so they have to like take melatonin. There's all kinds of things going on with sleep. And what I guess the point I'm trying to get to is that sleep isn't easy. It's actually a lot of hard work. And if you don't get not even a proper amount of sleep, but a proper quality of sleep, it can affect your blood pressure. It can affect your weight. It can affect your heart. It can affect your brain. It can affect everything. Your health, the holistic approach to health hinges on the quality of sleep. Sleep is like, you spend a third of your life doing it because it's that important. It's not a nothing. It's an everything. And you got to get a good night's sleep. And you got to learn to fall asleep. You got to learn to stay asleep. And that can involve making sure you go to bed at the same time every night, getting plenty of exercise during the day, not just because you'll feel better, but because it helps your body's rhythms and it helps you produce the proper amount of melatonin, avoiding stimulants and avoiding depressants before bed and too early in the morning, making sure that you're relaxing before bed as a kind of a way of like adjusting your body so it knows it's time to start producing melatonin, it's time to start relaxing the parts of the brain, but also firing up the parts of the brain that you need in order to fall asleep. Always having good sleep hygiene, which involves going to sleep in the same place every night. Don't try to go to sleep in a place where you do something exciting, which is why you're not supposed to read in bed. You're not supposed to watch TV in bed. You're not supposed to get on your phone in bed. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, don't lie awake. If you can't go to sleep, get up and do something else, but don't do it in your bed, and don't do something that's interesting because you don't want your body to reward itself for not falling asleep. And if you're having trouble sleeping, sometimes you got to go see a doctor. because you might be sleeping improperly. You might have sleep apnea. You might not actually be asleep when you're asleep. That's another one of those things. You could be snoring. You could be stopping breathing while you're asleep. There are so many things that can go wrong in the middle of sleep, and it can lead to strokes, cardiovascular disease, infections. Certain types of cancer are common in people who don't get enough sleep. It can be linked to age-related neurological disorders like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease. There's an association between lack of sleep and all kinds of health problems that you need help to overcome. And that's why today we're discussing the Berenstain Bears Sleepy Time book, because if there's one thing children's books authors know, it's that sleep is hard. And it's not just a matter of laying in bed and saying goodnight to your room, saying goodnight to your comb, saying goodnight to your little old lady, whispering hush, and trust me, there is nothing less relaxing than someone sitting on a rocking chair in the corner of your room just going, hush, 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 over and over and over again. Like some kind of Babadook. So the Berenstain Bears Sleepy Time book is about how all the animals in bear country, the squirrels, the birds, the bees, the deer, the sheep, the chickens, the ducks, the horses, the cows, the roosters, all go to sleep at night. The hens got to fluff up in the hen house. The ducks and geese put their heads under their wings. And even in the bear house, everyone's tired. Even the owl lamp is tired. Papa's fallen asleep in his chair. Mama's fallen asleep doing her embroidery. Brother's fallen asleep putting together an airplane. Sister's fallen asleep reading a book. And Honey is falling asleep putting her blocks together. Everyone's falling asleep, which leads me to wonder, hey, bears, I think you're staying up too late. This isn't addressed, but if the entire family is falling asleep mid-activity, maybe don't stay up until 11 o'clock at night every night. Our family has probably not the healthiest sleep hygiene. I think we all tend to stay up a little too late. I'm usually falling asleep on the couch before I go to bed. Alana tends to be falling asleep on the couch before she goes to bed. And Mitzi is 12, so she's just all over the place every night. We do know that she falls asleep and gets a good amount of sleep, but probably not enough sleep for her age. I think we can all consider ourselves slightly sleep deprived. According to the NIH, school-aged children and teens need about 9.5 hours of sleep per night, and adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. I'm probably not getting that. I'm probably getting to sleep at about 11:30, 11:45, and honestly, I've been waking up at about 4 or 5:30 every morning recently. Now that may have something to do with the meds I'm on. I'm on new meds, so my sleep is all over the place. But it's worth me being worried about at this point, and I do need more sleep. And I think Mama and Papa need more sleep too. If you're yawning and falling asleep in your chair, it's not just a sign that you need that you need sleep right now. It's a sign that you need more sleep. Get to bed earlier, Mama and Papa, brother and sister, honey. And so they're falling asleep where they stand. And Mama's like, well, before we go up to bed, let's straighten up our living room. And I'm like, I guess that's good, but start earlier than this, Mama. At this point, you probably should just get to bed. Papa turns off the TV. The kids put their stuff away. They trudge upstairs to bed. Mama and Papa help the kids take off their clothes. They fill a bubble bath and get the kids in the bathtub. Again, do this earlier, okay? Don't do this as you're falling asleep. Do this a good hour earlier in the evening. Like if it is 9 o'clock right now, Mama and Papa, those kids need to be getting in the tub at 8. Because this is where you're relaxing them. Like their bodies are shutting down. Don't let it get to this point. Get them in the tub at 8. Also, all the cubs are taking a bath together, which I guess is more efficient, but like there's 3 like that. That's getting weird at this point. Like brother is probably like, I don't need to take a bath with my sisters anymore. They towel off in big fuzzy towels. They brush their teeth. They brush and brush and brush their teeth. And now it's time to read them a bedtime story. Again, take care of this earlier in the evening. Now Mike has decided to tease me by reintroducing a story and a character and a myth cycle into the continuity of the Berenstain Bears that we thought we had covered, we thought we were done with. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Now, we have seen the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears numerous times over the course of the Berenstain Bears. At times, it has been Goldilocks and the Three People. At times, it has been Goldilocks and the Three Bears, but told from the bears' perspective. We don't get a whole lot of details about this story this time, but we do get a hint at what this story is about, because it says, Papa read the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It was a little scary. They hoped no little girl showed up at their house, which means that in their world, Goldilocks and the Three Bears is kind of a spooky story at night. Like, it's a home invasion story. It's less Goldilocks and the Three Bears and more like the strangers. Like, the bears, I guess, are at home in this version when a creature breaks into their house, the creature being a human, and it's a malevolent entity. I don't know how it ends. They don't tell us how it ends in this version of the story. Like, we've seen Goldilocks and the Three Bears in a Berenstain Bears books. There's the book of nighttime stories, bedtime stories from early on in the Bears run. It's an early. It's not even a first time book. It's just an I can read it all by myself book. No, it's not even an I can read. Is it an I can read it all myself book? It's a Random House book, an 8x8. But it's not the official Berenstain Bears line. Like, it's a Berenstain Bears book, but it's very complicated. In any case, Goldilocks and the Three Bears is in that one, and it's basically just the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. But this we now know that it's a scary story for little kids. Like, don't read it to your kids at night, Papa, Mama. Probably not a good one, again, especially since we just covered how in concert all the parts of the brain have to work. You don't want to introduce nightmares into that. We saw what happened with nightmares. Brother dreams about his clothes falling off, and that's weird, isn't it? That's a strange one. Then they say their prayers. Okay, it's important for there to be sleep routines. We know that. Anyone who's learned about sleep hygiene knows that routine is important. Anyone who's learned about getting your kids to go to bed knows that sleep is contingent upon the same routine being followed every night. You do the same thing every night. You train your body, you train your brain to know when sleep's a coming. Choo choo, here comes the sleep train. Time to hop on, but you can't hop on the caboose, and you can't hop on the engine. You gotta hop on the passenger car. The engine is taking your bath. The caboose, maybe it's saying your prayers. But you got to do it at the right time. You got to do it at the same time every night. You got to do it in the same order every night. Because if you don't, you're going to throw off your body. Your body's not going to know what's going on. Your brain's going to be like, well, the amygdala is now sending signals to the brain about the thing. And the suprachiasmatic nucleus is now telling the brainstem the wrong thing. And the pineal gland is sending out melatonin to the basal forebrain, and the midbrain is not acting as the arousal system, and the adenosine, the chemical byproduct of cellular energy consumption from cells in the basal forebrain and probably other regions, isn't supporting our sleep drive, and then the caffeine that we drank too soon is counteracting the sleepiness by blocking the actions of the adenosine, and then the amygdala, the almond-shaped structure involved in the processing of emotions, is now not becoming active enough during REM, and say your prayers earlier. Good night, my dears, says Mama and Papa. They kiss him and tuck him in. They tiptoe out of the room. They turn out the light, and everyone falls asleep. And then as they drift off to sleep, remember, not every animal falls asleep at night. The crickets are cricketing, and the hoot owls are hooting. And then the last thing in the book is a picture of a wide-awake owl looking into their room. And in this book, Honey is in a crib in the cub's bedroom, which isn't the case in other books. Honey has her own room. But I don't know what's going on here. I guess now they share a room, or at least in 2015 they did. They're falling asleep. Honey's asleep. Owl's awake. The last thing in the book, in huge, purple, bold letters with exclamation points, screaming into the night, are the words, "Good night! Sweet dreams!" Like, it's about as loud as you can. It looks like someone outside the house, or maybe even the owl, is screaming outside their window, "Good night! Sweet dreams!" Cracks me up. We didn't even cover the animals. How how the deer and the bees and the squirrels and the birds and the sheeps and the goats and the chickens and the ducks and the geese and the cows and the rooster and the horse, all different animals have all different things they need for sleep. Like the chickens, we know that if you put their head under their wing, you can make a chicken fall asleep. Like it's that easy. The connection is just like right there. But we also know that like deer, for them, sleep doesn't come as easily. Like because they are a prey animal, they've got to feel completely safe before they fall asleep. So we all have different needs, and we expect children to be able to fall asleep. I'm not surprised that children can't fall asleep. It's complicated. We covered why it's complicated. We covered the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the clusters of thousands of cells that receive information about light exposure from the eyes and control our behavioral rhythm is necessary to be functioning properly, because otherwise the brain won't know if the dark light cycle is happening at the right time, and the hypothalamus in the brain isn't telling the parts of the body that the body should stop being aroused and needs to get ready for sleep. It's very complicated. It's very complicated. We don't even talk about the brain chemical called GABA, which reduces the activity of arousal centers in the hypothalamus and the brainstem. And if the GABA's not right, yo GABA GABA, you're not getting any sleep. So I am now thinking way too much about sleep. And it's no wonder that I'm waking up, and I'm on this new med. So it's probably doing something it is doing something to parts of my brain because it's an ADHD med. So you mess with one little part of the brain, the other parts of the brain are affected. Now, the good news is our brains, which are the most complicated things in the world, like imagine every single computer in the world, the most powerful computers you've ever known. Imagine all those computers linked up together, working with nearly perfect efficiency, and doing as many computations as every single computer in the world does. Imagine them doing that constantly throughout the day, and that's your brain. And we don't even understand why it doesn't just fall apart all the time. And then we were like, every time during the day, we're just like, now it's time to shut it all down and start a new program that does something else completely different. Time to live a second life inside your brain. Sleepy time, we call it. And we expect everyone to just be good at it. I don't know I don't know. I just don't know. I guess if I have any message for everyone, it's that it's okay if you're not getting sleep, if your brain isn't working properly, whether it's from sleep disorder, whether it's because you have you have some sort of mental illness, whether it's because you have some kind of learning difference, whether it's just because you have ADHD or autism or any number of other wonderful things going on in your brain. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. And it's not because you've done something wrong. And it's not because anyone necessarily did anything wrong. It's because the brain is complicated. And it's just a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. And I am surprised when someone doesn't have a problem. It's like making a movie. When a bad movie comes out and people are like, what a bad movie. I'm always just like, I'm surprised a good movie ever gets made, because movies are so complicated. They require so many different moving parts, and the brain is more complicated than a movie. In fact, the brain deserves an Oscar. So tonight, before you go to bed, give your brain an Oscar, an Academy Award for Best Movie, because I am surprised it works at all. What a mess. What a several pound clump of gelatinous goo that we just cross our fingers and hopes puts us to sleep every night and wakes us awake every morning. The brain. Kiss your brain before you go to sleep. It's doing a hard job. And as someone who works for an organization that deals with the problems of the brain, trust me, a lot can go wrong, but a lot can go right. And when a lot goes right, we call that love. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for listening. The Berenstain Bears Sleepy Time book is available in Board Book, pick up a copy and read it to your kid before bed. I don't know if they're going to get anything good out of it, but we get to see the bears brushing their teeth in it. And you know how much I love that. I love seeing the squiggly toothpaste that Mike draws. It's a good book. I know, I'm liking all these books. These are cute books. The Worthy Kids series. They look good on a bookshelf together, trust me. They're very colorful. So coming up soon is the rest of the Sleepy Time books that I can get my hands on. We've got one about God's creatures and one about loving one another. Maybe I'll save that one for last. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for listening. If you live in the Twin Cities area, just know that I will be performing Lost in Bear Country, my new solo show at the Minnesota Fringe Festival. So if you're in town in early August, check that out. I'm putting it together right now. It's going to be a doozy. So come to the show. I can't guarantee you're going to be able to see the same show every night, partly because there's going to be some improv involved, also because I don't want to have to memorize everything. So if you want to see a man flail around and talk about the Berenstain Bears, come see Lost in Bear Country at the Minnesota Fringe Festival. Also check out my other shows, which are both on a mini hiatus right now, Pizza Toast and It's Del Toro Time. Check out my YouTube page, It's Phil, where you can find me posting all kinds of podcasts and shows. Dip in and dip out if you want to. It's an easy way to check out my shows. Check out episodes of Pizza Toast there. I have episodes of It's Del Toro Time. I post all my new Berenstain Bears shows there. Check those out. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time, deep in Bear Country.